जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारि। यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारि। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारि। यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरवनचारि। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Start with the prayers, asking for permission from the Parampara to discuss spiritual subjects. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे, निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाता सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet. Nashtaprayesha Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanaಭಾಯ Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangham langhayate girim yatkrpatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Om Pavitra Pavitro Va Sarvavastham Gatopi Va Yasmaret Pundarikaksham Sabahyabhyantaram Shuchihi Shri Vishnu Shri Vishnu. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji, Standard Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, because of whose mercy I am sitting here to speak a few words on Srimad Bhagavatam based on what I have heard, what I have read. Please forgive me if I make any mistakes in the process, but I am trying to keep everything which is a part of the scriptures, trying to keep to that. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Mataji, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Jyotsna Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Hare Krishna, Mahesh Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam.
Hare Krishna
Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Hare Krishna, Prasanna Kumari Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Hare Krishna, Vani Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Hare Krishna, Shilpa Mataji, Dandot Pranam. Mataji, should I go ahead and start, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, I have sent a couple of reminders. We should go ahead, yeah.
We'll start then. See, basically, today's chapter is again a very structural chapter, very technical chapter, where it's a part of the series where Bhumandala is being described. The various divisions of Bhumandala are being described. So what we have seen in the past, we'll do a very short recap that which have come in the 5th canto from 15th chapter onwards, that Bhumandala is basically compared to the shape of a lotus leaf. And in this section, today we will be discussing about the various divisions of the Bhumandala. So how did these sections and the Dvipas have come into place? If we go a little backwards, then we remember that Priyavrat Maharaj basically divides this Bhumandala into 7 islands and 7 oceans. So usually whenever there is a division, we'll see the boundaries are usually the mountains, the rivers and the oceans. They are used as the boundaries for any particular land. And Priyavrat Maharaj was once upon a time, he was basically ruling the entire Bhumandala. And at that time, and he was the monarch. So half of the Bhumandala, and Bhumandala is basically in the shape of a lotus leaf. So if you're looking at the lotus leaf from the top view, you will see a plane basically, a circular or oval plane. So you can imagine Bhumandala to be that plane. And then compare all these divisions. So Priyavrat Maharaj, what he did is that of the Bhumandala, half part was basically brightened by the sun, and the remaining stayed in the darkness. So he was not satisfied by that arrangement. So what he did was that he expanded into a second sun, and then he started following the path of the sun. And so if the sun was moving like this, he was moving behind exactly 180 degrees of that. So uh, since he expanded as the other sun, when half of the Bhumandala was being brightened by the sun, the remaining half was being brightened by him, and therefore the entire Bhumandala was having daylight all the time. So it was bright all the time. So there was no night, and that's what Priyavrat Maharaj did. So, and he followed the movement of the sun in such a way that basically what he did was that he was originally in the near the Sumeru mountain in the Jambudvipa. So he came a little out of Jambudvipa and he started traversing the path of the sun, behind the sun. So and he was on a chariot with a single wheel. Basically the chariot had a single wheel and he was traversing the path for about 26 days around that. And as he was traversing for 26 days, and at that time, we know that the personalities were very huge. So Priyavrat Maharaj himself was extremely strong, even his chariot and even his horses. So when he was traversing that path, it created a kind of a trench or a ditch. So 26 days he created that ditch, which eventually later got filled with water and became an ocean. So then after 26 days, he again moved a little further because and when he moved a little further, he knew that while he was in the first circle, his people in Jambudvipa could see him. So when he moved, he mathematically expanded to twice his size. His chariot also expanded to twice his size, and even his the horses also expanded. So everything expanded basically twice the size. Why he did that was that he still wanted his people, wherever he goes, however far he goes, he wanted them to see him in the same form. So we know that when we see all this, what I am taking, whatever I am speaking is basically not mine, but there is one Prabhuji called Pavneshwar Das, and he has done extensive series on Vedic cosmology, and he's a part of the Gaurang Darshan Prabhu's team in GEV, who teach the Bhakti Vaibhav. So I have seen many of his series earlier also, and it is very wonderful the way he explains and all the diagrams and eventually I'll be showing the diagrams also. Everything is picked up from his this one. Nothing is made by me. So all credits to Pavneshwar Das Prabhu, who made it so easy. Whatever is in the form of text, he made it very easy for us to actually repeat and show. So I would like to show that, but just a disclaimer that nothing of this is mine and everything is picked up from him, or picked up from his YouTube videos only. So that's what he did. So whenever he went, so the next section of the land where he went, because now this was a ditch, so he went to the next further stretch of land, and he started traversing again for another 26 days. And this time he expanded double the size. So even the ditch which came out, obviously, was the double the size of the previous ditch or trench. And that's why the size of the ocean also became the double size. So if the first one was 1x, then the second one would be 2x, the next one would be 4x, like that. He made about 7 circles and 7 tracts of land came out of it. Because when he's doing that, there is an ocean, then there is a tract of land, there is an ocean, there is a tract of land. So it was like that. Now, Dvipa basically means Dvi-apa, which means that a land which is covered by water on both the sides, on this side also and that side also. So island, usually we think that island should be a secluded land mass and surrounded by water on all the sides. But when we are talking about Dvipa, it's covered by water on two sides. That's what it means. So now when we are seeing this entire, the circular thingy, then we'll know that it is actually not an island, but actually it's a tract of land which has ocean this side also and that side also. That's why it's called a Dvipa. So, so that's what he did in 26 days, making a trench with his chariot. And this way he created about 7 such circles. So now we'll basically see pictorially how all this actually looks. I'll share my screen. Okay, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, Mataji.
So this chapter is basically called the structure of the universe. And I'm going to take only the first 14 verses and whatever is written in those verses in the translations and the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is what we were talking about, that Bhumandala is basically looking like a lotus leaf from the top. And when I talked about the first half and the second half, so this is what it is. Like in the center is the Meru mountain. And this Bhumandala is basically having half daylight and half night. So then King Priyavrata, he was not happy with it. And then he started traversing the path of the sun, but in the opposite direction, like just 180 degrees away, so that at every point of time, both the sides of Bhumandala will have a daylight. And this is how he created. So he had 7 chariots, each one with, why they're talking, actually it's the same chariot. But they are saying 7 chariots because every time it was expanding to double the previous size. So therefore it is being termed as 7 chariots, and each one is twice the size of the previous one. Therefore, each ocean, the same thing that we discussed, but a kind of summary is here. And all this that I'm speaking right now is only the recap. We still haven't come to this particular chapter that we are covering today. But I thought that it is good if we just kind of do a recap so we are able to stay with the context of today's chapter. So, and 26 days basically is a whole number, rounded number, but actually it is 25.76 days, which it was taking. And then, so that is called the summer equinox. So there is one equinox where he's traveling away from the Meru, and then when he is returning, it's basically the winter equinox. So first he goes out to the 7 circles, then he comes back to the Meru mountain, and that is Jambu Dvipa, and that is the second equinox. And that's how it is 180 plus 180 days. And this is how he created the 7 circles. You will see this 7 oceans. Okay, so the first, we know that this description has already been covered in 5.16, that Jambu Dvipa is at the center, and that is covered by saltwater ocean. Here, we can see this. And then the next land which is coming, the next Dvipa which is coming is called the Plaksha Dvipa, and that is covered by the sugarcane juice. And Salmali Dvipa, that is covered by liquor ocean. So these dvipas are now going to be described in this particular chapter, and what it is covered with, who are the, how are the people, inhabitants, and whom do they pray to, what do they pray, what is the special significance of each of the dvipas. So still now, actually only Jambu Dvipa was covered in the previous chapters, and in this particular chapter, they are going to cover the next 6 dvipas. So, but because we need to understand and kind of recap that how did the six dvipas come into picture? What are they? That's why I'm like basically covering this particular thing. So here we have seen that it is Plaksha Dvipa. The next Dvipa is called the Plaksha Dvipa, then the Shalmali Dvipa, and then it is Kusha Dvipa, then it is Krauncha Dvipa, and then it is Pushkara Dvipa, the last one. So, and each of this is basically covered by different kinds of oceans. So we have seen the first one is saltwater ocean around Jambu Dvipa, sugarcane juice ocean around the Plaksha Dvipa, around the Shalmali Dvipa is the liquor ocean. After that is the around Kusha Dvipa is basically clarified butter ocean, which is basically ghee. Clarified butter is ghee ocean. And then around Krauncha Dvipa is milk ocean. Then around the Shaka Dvipa is emulsified yogurt, which is basically buttermilk ocean. And then around Pushkara Dvipa, it's about sweet drinking water ocean. So that's how we have seen the first Dvipa. And then when there are further divisions in each Dvipa also. So the only first Dvipa is an exception and the last Dvipa is an exception. Rest every Dvipa are similar in structure. So the first Dvipa is basically divided into, which is what? The first Dvipa is Jambu Dvipa. And Jambu Dvipa, it's already been covered in the earlier chapters that it is divided into 9 varshas, 9 mountains and 4 rivers. In this chapter, we will cover about the remaining dvipas. 2 to 6 dvipas are basically covered with 7 varshas, 7 mountains and 7 rivers. The 7th dvipa is basically covered with 2 varshas. And how does that happen? We will see it diagrammatically, but there is only, so in like I told you in the starting of this session today, that usually the boundaries are determined by it is by the oceans, by mountains, and by rivers. So they determine the boundaries, and usually it is the mountains and oceans because they are huge masses and they divide. So that's how when there are 7 mountains, basically there are 7 varshas, and there are 7 rivers. So what is a varsha? Varsha is basically a valley which comes between 2 mountains. So you'll see a mountain is coming and then there is a plain area and then you again see a mountain. So that plain area in between, which is a valley, is basically a varsha. And then, so that's what is the situation of Jambu Dvipa, where 9 varshas, 9 mountains, 4 rivers. When 2 to 6 dvipas, you will see there are 7 varshas, 7 mountains, and 7 rivers. Why there are 7 varshas is basically because of the 7 mountains and the land between the 7 mountains. And in the 7th dvipa, what happens is that it's only a single mountain range which is just going circular like this. It's one mountain. And therefore, one mountain has one side and the other side. That's why there are 2 varshas. And there are therefore 2 rivers only. 2 varshas and 2 rivers. Usually why these rivers come into picture is if there are land masses which are created, varshas which are created, for each varsha, you need some nourishment, right? Water is a very important source for livelihood. So therefore, the Supreme Lord has also provided for a water source for every varsha. That's the reason why there are 9 varshas, and in the 9 varshas, there are 4 rivers which are basically falling across the 9 varshas, and then they are covering. In the 2nd to 6th, there are 7 rivers which are covering. So similarly, in the 7th one, 7th Dvipa, there are 2 rivers which are covering both the sides. And these are all basically named after the sons of Priyavrata Maharaj. So in Jambu Dvipa, it is Priyavrata Maharaj's 9 sons which are made. Then again in the next one, there are, Jambu Dvipa, what happens is that there are different sons of Priyavrat Maharaj, and each one is given one Dvipa. So each person who has been given that particular Dvipa has assigned further the portions to their respective sons. So the first one is basically given to 9 sons, second one onwards is given to 7 sons, like that. And they are basically beautifully decorated with hermitages, and there are a lot of, like you will see a lot of natural beauty in these particular varshas. Am I going too fast? Is everything understandable so far? Krishna?
Yes, Mataji.
So like that, so whatever we have discussed till now, so we'll see here that there is a Jambu Dvipa in the center, a very small one circle. And so when it is covered, you will see that the first one, 9 divisions, is again shown in a separate diagram. But basically, you will see that this mountain ranges are going like this. And that's why all the next 4 dvipas are basically divided into 7 varshas. They are like this. And these blue things that we are seeing are basically rivers, which are coming from those mountain ranges and flowing through the varsha so that it can nourish the people of that particular and the inhabitants of that particular varsha. That's what it is. And for each, the name of each of the dvipa is coming from one particular significant part of that particular dvipa. Like Jambu Dvipa is named Jambu Dvipa because of the presence of Jambu tree. Similarly, the Plaksha Dvipa is called Plaksha Dvipa because of presence of Plaksha tree. And we see during this particular chapter, today's chapter, that the description of all these, it is very, very technical and informative, but when we see it diagrammatically, it makes it like very interesting. I felt that it was like very interesting when I read about all these. And a lot of knowledge also came that otherwise we have a lot of misconceptions ki what is Bharat, what is Bharatvarsha, Bharat Khanda, and where exactly is this Meru mountain, why we can't see it, and things like that. So all these misconceptions are basically clarified through these chapters. Of course, I am not covering them today, but the future chapters are covering a lot of that portion, which will give us a lot of clarity about the creation and the way it is beautifully designed by the Supreme Lord. So this is about Jambudvipa and the 9 Varshas. We are not covering this because this is already covered, but just a kind of a recap that what are the different Varshas here. So Kuru Varsha, Hiranmaya Varsha, Ramyaka Varsha, Ketumala Varsha, Ilavrita Varsha, Bhadrasva Varsha, Hari Varsha, Kimpusha Varsha, and Bharat Varsha. Why this is important is because when we want to do the recap of the previous chapter, which is 5.19, the 19th chapter of 5th canto, it is more around the description of glories of Sri Rama and how the Kimpusha Varsha inhabitants were worshipping Lord Ram. That's why this is important to understand where exactly is Kimpusha Varsha, where is this coming, what is the context of it. So it was a part of the Jambudvipaka description, and that's how it is. That's how we'll do the recap basically. And so here also you will see that there are different mountains which are basically dividing the different varshas. So you will see here Shringavan, Shweta, Neela, Malyavan, Gandhamadana, Nishadha, Hemakuta, and Himalayas. So these are the different mountains which are dividing the different varshas. And in the center is the Ilavrita Varsha, and that also has lot of structures inside, lot of mountain filaments, small floating mountains also here and there. And that is already covered in the past. So here 4 rivers are coming from Kumuda, and Kumuda, Mandara, Suparshva, and Meru Mandara. So these are the different mountain ranges within Ilavrita Varsha, which is giving the 4 waters. So this is basically covering the previous recap. And why this particular is important is because in Jambudvipa there are different varshas, and the different inhabitants are praying different forms of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the previous chapter, the 5.19, they describe about the inhabitants of Kimpursha Varsha and of Bharat Varsha and the glories of Bharat Varsha and whom they were praying to. So basically, Kimpursha Varsha was worshipping Rama and Bharat Varsha was worshipping Nara Narayana. So that is what is covered in the previous chapter. So that's where it ended last. So what was the previous chapter talking about? It was basically honoring the Bharat Varsha And that the people in Kimpur Varsha were worshipping Lord Ramchandra and Hanuman. And what was their speciality? That they protected the devotees and punished the wrongdoers. And what was the importance and significance of Lord Ramchandra's incarnation is show us how to surrender and serve wholeheartedly. So that's what is. And we are in this auspicious time approaching Ram Navami, and this was so significant mentioning this. Therefore, a recap is very important of the previous chapter. So, and then, these are the different things which got covered in the previous chapter about Devarshi Narada praising Bharatvarsha, what is the significance of Bharatvarsha, and why Bharatvarsha matters. Okay, so that spiritual principles and helping people grow spiritually and connect with devotees is possible only with Bharatvarsha. So, like we have seen in even in Bhagavad Gita, Ya Brahma Bhuvanaloka Punaravartino Arjuna. In that verse, what Krishna is saying that even if you go till Brahma Loka, you will keep again coming back and in the cycle of birth and death. So you'll have to go upwards, and then again you are kind of spending all your credits that you have earned in all your previous lives, and then once the credits are over, you again have to fall down to the earth planet to practice your spiritual principles and actually get out of this cycle of birth and death. Your presence in the earth planet is most important. So even those who are residents of the different heavenly planets also always aspire to be born in the earthly planet so that they will be able to practice devotional service. So that is the importance of this one. So Bharatvarsha here basically means the entire Bharatakhanda or the world that is a part of it. So, and then elevation to spiritual realm. Even if you reach higher realms like Brahmaloka, you might still come back to earth unless you become spiritually aware. So then finally, the last chapter ended where Srila Shukdev Goswami is basically concluding with a talk about the smaller islands within the Jambu Dvipa, and that how vast the universe is. So he's talking about and all this creation and everything basically tells us the greatness of Supreme Lord, the beautiful engineering that he has done, and then everything is like maintained in a very self-sustained way. And through Vedic principles, he's also given like we have we all know what Vedas are. We buy a laptop, a manual comes with it, how to use the laptop. We may not read the manual sometimes, so you will know that we don't know the features, every feature that is available in the laptop, or even if it is your phone, you don't know every feature. But if you want to make best use of the particular instrument that you have, like if you want to make use of your phone, then you will have to, if you read the manual, that is the best way, right? Isn't it? Don't you feel that if you read the manual, then you'll know everything about the phone and you can take advantage of, or value for money is actually determined by that.
That's right, Mataji.
Right. So if you know that, if we don't know also, we can do some experimentation and we can still figure out how to work with the phone. But working with the phone and making best use and taking full advantage of the phone are two different things. So when you know the manual, when you have read the manual, you know all the features, then you can definitely make use of every possible feature of the phone and make that worth buying. So similarly, our human body is also a kind of an instrument which is given to us. Why it is given to us? And for a larger purpose of going back to Godhead. And the manual which is provided is basically when Lord is sending us here, he is also sending the manual which are the Vedas. And the ultimate purpose of all the Vedas is to realize the Supreme Lord. Right? So that's what we have learned. So how, and when we do the Vedas, so basically we are coming here basically because we have certain desires to be fulfilled. So what are Vedas doing is that it is telling us how we can fulfill those desires, whom to worship for the particular desire, and how to do it in a very regulated way. So that we are not like when we are totally like, if we have a certain desire, if we don't follow any rules and regulation to fulfill that desire, then it becomes basically that karmis. We are karmis. But when we are doing it in a very regulated way, following the Vedic injunctions, then we become the karma kandis. But when we do that in a regulated way, and ultimately we know that by doing this regulated way, I want to connect to the Supreme Lord, then it becomes karma yoga. That's what we have read in Bhagavad Gita, right? So that is what it is. So this instrument we have to utilize in a very, very productive way that is available to us. Now the text 2 that we are starting with, so we'll read through the translations of this particular chapter because there is nothing much except for the translations. And so we'll read with the translations first, yeah. Okay. Can somebody volunteer to read the translation? So we'll start with the text 1 translation. So all this that we spoke about till now is all about the recap and the context, setting of the context for today's chapter. So everything is clear? Any doubts so far? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, it's clear. It's clear, Mataji.
So then we'll proceed with the chapter today. So Josna Mataji, do you want to read the translation?
No, Mataji. My glasses are not working properly. Sorry,
will
Mataji.
read.
No problem.
Hare
Anybody
Krishna,
wants
I'll
to
read.
read the translation?
Mataji, should I read Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please read.
Translation. The great sages Sukadeva Goswami said, "Hereafter I shall describe the dimensions, characteristics, and forms of the 6 islands, beginning with the island of Lakasha.
Laksha.
Laksha.
Mhm. Okay, so basically what he's saying is that I am going to describe the dimensions, characteristics, and forms of 6 islands, beginning with Laksha. So why 6 islands? Because first island, which is Jambudvipa, is already covered. So the next 6 islands is what is being described in this particular chapter. Yes.
Hare Krishna, I'll read Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Translation. As Sumeru mountain is surrounded by Jambudvipa, Jambudvipa is also surrounded by an ocean of salt water. The breadth of Jambudvipa is 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles, and the breadth of the saltwater ocean is the same. As a moat around a fort is sometimes surrounded by garden-like forest, the saltwater ocean surrounding Jambudvipa is itself surrounded by Plakshadvipa. The breadth of Plakshadvipa is twice that of the saltwater ocean. In other words, 200,000 yojanas. On Plakshadvipa, there is a tree shining like gold and as tall as the Jambu tree on Jambudvipa. At this root is a fire with 7 flames. It is because this tree is a Plaksha tree that is the island is called Plakshadvipa. Plakshadvipa was governed by Idham Jivas. Idhma Jivha, one of the sons of Maharaja Priyavrata. He endowed the 7 islands with the names of his sons, with his 7 sons, divided the islands among the sons, and then retired from active life to engage in devotional service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So like I told in the beginning that this chapter is mainly about the different divisions, different dvipas. So this is the series that they are going to follow. See, what is the width or what is the width? So the technical aspects, the features. So why it is called a particular dvipa, Plaksha dvipa. So what is the special significance here? There is a tree which is shining like gold. Okay. And it is as tall as Jambudvipa. So at its root is a fire with 7 flames. So all this is being described. And that who is ruling this particular dvipa. Okay. And then to whom did he divide further to this dvipa? So I'll show you that I have created a table where we can, like, now it is very texty. So I have kind of summarized it through a table so that it becomes easier to understand. I'll show it in a while after we read through some of these. After we read through all of these, I'll show it to you. Yes. Next, anybody wants to read?
Yeah, can I read, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
The 7 islands or Varshas are named according to the names of those 7 sons: Shiva, Yavasa, Subhadra, Shanta, Kshema, Amrita, and Abhaya. In those 7 tracts of land, there are 7 mountains and 7 rivers. The mountains are named Manikuta, Vajrakuta, Indrasena, Jyotisman, Suparna, Hiranyastiva, and Medhumala. And the rivers are named Aruna, Yamuna, Angirasi, Savitri, Suptabhata, Pratambhara, Satyambhara. One can immediately be free from material contamination by touching or bathing in those rivers. And the 4 castes of people who live in Lakshadweepa are the Hamsas, Patangas, Udvayanas, and Satyangas. Purify themselves in that way. The inhabitants of Lakshadweepa live for 1000 years. They are beautiful like the demigods, and they also beget children like the demigods by completely performing the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, and by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead as represented by the Sun God, and they attain the Sun, which is heavenly planet.
Yeah. So here, also the same thing. So if that who is ruling and how it is divided. Okay. And inhabitants of Lakshadweepa live for 1000 years. So it shows that it is not a earthly planet, basically. So they are beautiful like the demigods. So the description of the people, how do they look? And whom do they worship? So they worship the sun god. And we know in Bhagavad Gita again, the principle. What is the principle? Can anybody remember? About, of course, what is the principle about like this worship thingy? What does Krishna talk about worship? What happens
Patram
when-
Pushpam Parantoyam,
No, what happens when you worship? Whom you worship determines what happens to you. What is your destination? So about that.
Yeah. So they worship the demigods. They reach the higher planets.
Yeah.
And
Planets which is assigned to that particular demigod, right?
Yes.
Yanti deva vrata devan pitranyanti pitrivrata bhutani yanti bhutecha. A particular verse undi kada.
That's it.
So what does it say? That if you are worshipping Pitra, then you will reach Pitraloka. Yanti Devam Vrata Devan, ante whichever demigod you are worshipping, basically you'll reach that planet. So now here, because this Bhagavatam, this particular episode where it is talking about they are worshipping sun god and therefore they reach sun planet, is a confirmation of that principle which is described in Bhagavad Gita. So when we are talking about this particular, these 2 verses that we have read, so Srila Prabhupada actually wonderfully describes in this. So we know that the translation is only talking about the text. What is it talking about? That, okay, these are the inhabitants, this is how they look, this is whom they worship, this is how they worship, and this is where they reach, things like that. But immediately Srila Prabhupada takes the opportunity to clarify to us those important principles of Bhagavad Gita. So he's saying that in Hindu. So here they are talking about worshipping sun, and then you will see in future that different dvipas, the inhabitants are worshipping different demigods. So that's why Srila Prabhupada takes this opportunity to reiterate that in Hindu, in our belief, basically there are 3 main deities within the material realm that whom we consider as the supreme most: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. But some people, they mistake that Vishnu is equal to Brahma or Shiva. But we know that that is not correct, because Vedas are saying that Vishnu is the ultimate controller. He is the maintainer of the universe and of all the living entities, right? So Vishnu is, so therefore what is Vishnu doing? Everything is created by Vishnu only. We have learned in the first canto of Bhagavatam that how in fact in the second and third cantos of Bhagavatam where creation takes place. So how he basically brings out the different elements, how by his glance basically various elements are manifesting, the 23 elements are manifesting, and then the jivas are infused into the Mahatattva, and then how the jivas actually again manifest their life forms based on their past karma and everything. So in every stage of the creation, at every stage of manifestation, we see that it is infused because of glance by Mahavishnu. So therefore, Vishnu is the one who is expanding into these demigods like Agni, Vayu, Surya, Chandra, and who are all part of him. Right? So that is what we are basically see. And so Prabhupada is actually clarifying that part only in this particular purport. He is again reiterating to us so that we don't forget what is the context. So, and the demigods also, which are including the Brahma and Shiva, we know that they are what avatars they are? They are Guna avatars. So Guna avatars are also coming from Vishnu, right? The Karanodakshaya Vishnu. So when the universe is ending, what will happen? Everything again merges back into Vishnu, and that includes even the demigods. They merge back into Vishnu. And therefore, Vishnu is the supreme and cannot be compared with, that is also an offense to compare with any other demigod. So we may think that, okay, so here we are seeing that in the verse, they are using a specific term that they are worshipping the Supreme Lord through this particular demigod. But Prabhupada is clearly clarifying that if you are approaching directly the Supreme Lord is a different thing, and approaching through a demigod is a different thing. Both are two different concepts. And where will you end up by doing that? That also is depicted in the verse itself. So demigods are only acting on Vishnu's behalf, and they are following his orders, like how a cabinet, a prime minister is accompanied by cabinet of ministers, and then the cabinet of ministers are further being accompanied by different people like the secretaries, the IAS, the administrators, everybody, and the different MLAs, MPs below, right? So there are different people who are assisting for a government to function. So similarly, Lord is basically glancing, and he is initiating the manifestation, but the tasks are being done by different people. And those are the different departmental heads. So that is what he's talking about. So the basic difference between the Supreme Lord and the departmental heads is very simple to understand. When you go to a departmental head, if you just question a few more departments, can they take care of that? Like Vayu, can he take care of the Varuna department? Can he take care of the sun department, moon department? He can't take care. So therefore, he's not the Supreme Lord. So that neti can be done there. No, wala. The way of questioning. So that makes us inquire more. Then who is it? Who is it who is doing it? Who is it who is able to do everything? And then finally we arrive at the Supreme Lord Krishna when we start questioning that way. So worshippers of Vishnu, and that is also clarified in our Bhagavad Gita, that worshippers of Vishnu go to his divine abode. Which is the divine abode? Vaikuntha. And while worshippers of demigods are actually going to the respective planets, the planets are still within the material realm. So therefore, the cycle of birth and death will still continue. They will still fall down. But whereas once you reach Vaikuntha, there is no falling down, because it is in the spiritual realm, which is beyond the material manifestation. So that is what it is. So the idea that Vishnu is equal to the demigods and goes against the scriptures itself. Demigods are not supreme, but dependent on Vishnu's mercy only for conducting all their tasks. It is Vishnu only who gives them power and strength to conduct whatever they are doing. And when they feel helpless, they go back and pray to Vishnu only. So when some demon is actually attacking them, when somebody is creating a ruckus, when somebody is snatching what belongs to the demigods, who do the demigods go to? What are the examples that we have learned before? They always go stand at the edge of the Garbhodaka ocean. They pray to Supreme Lord. And then Narada will transmit their information, or Brahmaji will transmit their information to the Supreme Lord. So we have seen so many stories like that. So that is what it is. So Prabhupada is taking this opportunity to wonderfully actually clarify that. So, yeah, so now we reach text 5. We share the screen once again. Okay. So somebody who can read translation. Krishna? Or I'll read.
I'll read
Can I read, Mataji?
translation.
Yes, yes.
This is the mantra by which the inhabitants of Lakshadweepa worship the Supreme Lord. Let us take shelter of the Sun God, who is a reflection of Lord Vishnu, the all-expanding Supreme Personality of Godhead, the oldest of all persons. Vishnu is the only worshipable Lord. He is the Vedas, he is the religion, and he is the origin of all auspicious and inauspicious results.
So this is
Purport.
no, purport is not required.
Yeah, okay.
Take shelter of the sun god, who is reflection of Lord Vishnu. So they are ultimately, they want to worship Lord Vishnu only, but they are doing it through the medium of sun god, the all expanding, the oldest of all persons. They are saying all this, right? Yes. Mahesh Prabhu, do you want to read?
Sure, Mataji. Yeah. So, O King, longevity, sensory prowess, physical and mental strength, intelligence and bravery are naturally and equally manifested in all the inhabitants of the 5 islands headed by Lakshadweepa.
Yeah. So these are the qualities of the inhabitants. It's talking about those. Yeah, next, anybody wants to read? Krishna?
If no one is there, I can read. Mataji.
Yeah, you can continue, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Lakshadweepa is surrounded by an ocean of sugarcane juice, equal in breadth to the island itself. Similarly, there is then another island, Salmali Dweepa, twice as broad as Lakshadweepa, that is 4 lakh yojanas and 32 lakh miles, and surrounded by an equally broad body of water called Surasagara, the ocean that tastes like liquor.
Yeah. So here they're talking about 4 lakh yojanas. So each yojana is how many miles? It's basically 8 miles. And that makes it to 13 kilometers. So that is the size of Lakshadweepa. You can imagine that it is 32 lakh miles. Is the breadth of the Lakshadweepa. Now
Yes,
it is
Mataji.
covered by the liquor ocean.
I did never imagined that there would be a liquor ocean actually.
So basically, ocean means the water is the majority content. Like for instance, now we are covered with salt ocean, right? When we
Right,
go
Mataji.
to our seas, they are all salty. But does not mean that content is only salt. It's majority water and salt is mixed in them. So when you evaporate the water, you are left with the salt. Similarly, there you evaporate the water and you will be left with liquor. You will evaporate water and you will be left with sugarcane juice. It's like that.
Right, Mataji.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to read? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
And
Shall I read?
Yes, Mataji, please read.
Text 8 now? Text 8.
Yes.
On Shalmali Dweepa, there is a Shalmali tree from which the island takes its name. The tree is as broad and tall as the Plaksha tree. In other words, 100 yojanas, that is 800 miles broad, and 1100 yojanas tall, that is 8,800 miles. Learned scholars say that this gigantic tree is the residence of Garuda, the king of all birds and carrier of Lord Vishnu. In that tree, Garuda offers Lord Vishnu his Vedic praise. Hare Krishna.
Read the next one also, Mataji.
Okay. Text 9. The son of Maharaja Priyavrata, named Yagnabahu, the master of Shalmali Dweepa, divided the island into 7 tracts of land, which he gave to his 7 sons. The names of those divisions which correspond to the names of the sons are Surochana, Saumanasya, Ramanaka, Devavarsha, Paribhadra, Apyayana, and Avignata. Text 10 also shall I read? The same.
You can.
In those tracts of land, there are 7 mountains. Swarasa, Shatashrunga, Vamadeva, Kunda, Mukunda, Pushpavarsha, and Sahasrashruti. There are also 7 rivers: Anumati, Sinivali, Saraswati, Kuhu, Rajani, Nanda, and Raka. They are still existing.
Anybody else wants to read Hare Krishna? Otherwise,
I'll read.
yeah. Yes, Master.
Translation. Strictly following the cult of Varnashrama Dharma, the inhabitants of those islands, who are known as Shrutidharas, Viryadharas, Vasundharas, and Isandharas, all worship the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead named Soma, the moon god.
Yes, Master.
Should I continue, Mataji?
Yes, Master.
Translation. The inhabitants of Salmali Dvipa worship the demigod of the moon in the following words. By his own race, the moon god has divided the month into 2 fortnights, known as Shukla and Krishna, for the distribution of food grains to the Pitas and the demigods. The demigod of the moon is he who divides time, and he is the king of all the residents of the universe. We therefore pray that he may remain our king and guide, and we offer him our respectful obeisances.
So, whom were Plakshadvipa residents, whom were they praying to?
Sun god.
Yes. And who are the Shalmali Dvipas praying to?
Moon.
Moon god.
Mataji, all the demigods and everything come only from these 2 dynasties, only moon and sun, I think.
No, Mataji, there are many other departments, Kada.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to read this?
Yeah, I'll read. Translation. Outside the ocean of liquor is another island known as Kushadvipa, which is 8 lakh yojanas, which is 64 lakhs miles wide, twice as wide as the ocean of liquor. As Samal Dvipa.
Shalmali Dvipa.
Shalmali Dvipa. I lost this thing, Mataji. Okay, as Shalmali Dvipa is surrounded by a liquor ocean, Kushadvipa is surrounded by an ocean of liquid ghee, as broad as the island itself. On Kushadvipa, there are clumps of kusha grass, from which the island takes its name. The kusha grass, which was created by the demigods by the will of the Supreme Lord, appears like a second form of fire, but with very mild and pleasing flames. Its young shoots illuminate all directions.
Yeah. So everything is illumination. Like sun god is also responsible for illumination. Then we see the moon god also illuminates in a very pleasant and a nice way. Kusha grass also, they are talking about the illumination, that very pleasing and mild flames. So when you are like using, this is basically darbha. And we have seen earlier also in the, when it was the description of Varaha, who came out of the Garbhodaka ocean and who just kind of shrugged himself, and then the water fell on the earth, and then Kusha grass came from there. So that was one description once in Srimad Bhagavatam also. So these, so that's why it is talking about that. And this particular Varsha is basically filled with the Kusha grass. Yes, Mataji. Anybody else wants to read?
I can read Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhu.
O king, another son of Maharaja Premvrata, Hiranyavrata was the king of this island. he divided it into 7 parts, which he delivered in to his 7 sons according to the rights of inheritance. The king then retired from family life to engage in austerities. The names of those sons are Vasudana, Dudha Stutyavrata, Nabhigupta, Vivikta, and Vamadeva.
Shilpa Mataji, I was assigned only till 14, but this is a continuation of the island where we started, the Dvipa where we started. So I went till 17, Mataji, just for your information.
Okay, Mataji. Tomorrow I'll inform Santosh probably. No problem.
Yeah. Because it was like the description was not ending.
Yes,
so
yes,
I
got
took
it.
it till.
Yes, yes.
Shall I continue, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. In those, have you moved it, Mataji?
In those 7 islands, there are 7 boundaries. Are you able to see?
I'm not able to, I'm very good. Yeah. In those 7 islands, there are 7 boundary mountains known as Chakra, Chatushranga, Kapila, Chitrakuta, Devanika, Urdhva Roma, and Dravina. There are also 7 rivers known as Ramakulya, Madhukulya, Mitravinda, Shutavinda, Devagarbha, Krutachyuta, Mantramala.
Yes, Prabhuji.
The inhabitants of the islands of Kushadvipa are celebrated as Kushalas, Kovidas, Abhiyuktas, and Kulakas. They are like the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas and Sudras respectively. By bathing in the waters of those rivers, they all become purified. They are expert in performing ritualistic ceremonies according to the orders of Vedic scriptures. Thus, they worship the Lord in his aspect as a demigod of fire.
So here they are again worshipping the Lord in his aspect as fire. Yeah, and how they are worshipping is this. Yes, Prabhuji, you can read this.
Yes, Mataji. This is the mantra by which the inhabitants of Kushadvipa worship the fire god. O fire god, you are a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, and you carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore, we request you to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead the yagnic ingredients we are offering the demigods, for the Lord is the real enjoyer.
Yeah. So here the Kushadvipa description is basically ending.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for reading.
Thank you.
Yeah. So then if we go back to where all the descriptions have started, so which is the text 5. Okay. So yeah, text 5. So what it is talking about, the mantra by which the inhabitants of Lakshadvipa worship the Supreme Lord. So it is take shelter of the sun god, who is reflection of Lord Vishnu, the all-expanding Supreme Personality of Godhead, the oldest of all persons. Vishnu is the only worshipable Lord. He is the Vedas, he is religion, and he is the origin of all auspicious and inauspicious results. So this is where it started, and we see a reflection similarly into the different varshas, that they are also worshipping the Supreme Lord only, but in different forms, especially through these demigods. So, and again, so it is reiterated in the purport by Srila Prabhupada that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Lord, even including of death. So that is stated in Bhagavad Gita. So he controls, and therefore that's why he's talking about controlling both the auspicious and inauspicious activities, because the most inauspicious activity is considered death. So the demigods, like the sun god, they are not like gods in themselves, but basically they are representatives of Vishnu. And therefore they are worshipped in such a way that even when one is worshipping, so basically what are these verses teaching us? They are teaching us how to worship the demigods. So because they are stating very clearly, you are the representative of Vishnu, you are representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we are going to demigods, if we are, there is nothing wrong in going to them. There are times that you may require a specific thing, and and approaching that demigod. Like you need a certain department all the time. You can't really knock at the door of the prime minister. So you will have to go to the particular department in which you have a problem. But when we tell them that you are a representative of the prime minister, so therefore please do this task for us, and you are a great support to him, and you glorify the demigod as a supporter, and appreciate them for their endeavor in Supreme Lord's activities, then automatically they become pleased and give you whatever they want, right? So that is what is kind of being described. If you observe all the prayers that are being done by different inhabitants to the different representatives, it is very clear that they are talking about them as representative. But because, again, Prabhupada also clarifies that though this is allowed as per Vedic injunctions, but it is not the best process, because ultimately you don't reach the Supreme Lord, but you are actually reaching the particular planet of that demigod. So Vishnu is described in various Upanishads, therefore, as the creator and controller of the universe, which is including death. And the inhabitants of these 5 islands are basically worshipping the demigods like the sun god. But ultimately, what they are saying, they worship Vishnu, who is present in all beings. So they are showing that Vishnu is present in the demigods and in every being. So that is what is the significance of their worship that we have to learn. So, and people who are driven by material desires are worshipping demigods, but their desires are ultimately fulfilled by whom? Are they fulfilled by demigods, or are they fulfilled by the power which is bestowed upon the demigods by Vishnu, right? And without Vishnu's sanction, even the demigods can't fulfill any desire of anybody. So ultimately, that is the reality that we have to accept, and that is what we have to learn from these verses. So if we look at them, they may look like very just information. Okay, how are the mountains divided? What are the names of the mountains? But look at these subtle, in between the lines, the messaging that is coming to us. We have to realize that messaging. So that Vishnu is the super soul of all living beings, and including the demigods. But this is an indirect worship of Vishnu. If we want, we can directly worship Vishnu also. But here we are basically indirectly worshipping Vishnu if we are doing it this way. So that is what this particular chapter is actually telling us. Right? Yeah, so earlier we have learned that Jambudvipa is 1 lakh yojanas in diameter. So this diagram is just to give you a kind of picture so it can remain in your mind about this particular chapter. So if this is 1 lakh yojanas, and then every particular ocean and every particular island again goes like multiplies by 2, 2, 2. And this is how basically ultimately I have kind of summarized whatever we have read in the different chapters, which tell us what is the island. So what are the different segments which have been covered by each of these words? That what is the island? What is the size of the island? What is the ocean that it is covered with? And what is the special significance of that particular island? Who is the ruler of that island, and whom did he pass on? And when in every case, when you read that this particular ruler, he passed it on to his children, and he went to worship the Supreme Lord, or he went away to practice austerities, right? So when the right time comes, nobody is like kind of holding on to their position and being attached to their position. It's just a duty that they are doing. Like everything is a representation of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the thing has to get passed on, and ultimately they have to go back and practice what is the real swadharma of their existence. So that is what they're ultimately doing. So all these verses are also telling us that. So that's what this particular table is telling us. So a quick recap again of what we have read. So Jambudvipa is 1 lakh yojanas in width. The salt ocean, which is surrounding the Jambudvipa, is also 1 lakh. So you will see the Dvipa and the size of the ocean are similar. The speciality of Jambudvipa is the presence of Jambu tree, and the ruler of Jambudvipa is Agnidhara, and their kids are basically Nabhi, Kimpusha, Harivarsha, Ilavrita, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, Puru, Bhadradeva, and Ketumala. And about Jambudvipa has been described in detail in the past chapters between 16 to 19. That's why this is not covered in this particular chapter. Therefore, I have not taken. And you will see that they have described the inhabitants and different castes also. So what is here present as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Shudra, and Vaishya are present in every other Varsha also, but with different names. So those names are also described. So like when we are talking about Lakshadweepa, so we'll see that it is covered. It is basically 2 lakh yojanas, and it is covered with sugarcane juice. What is the speciality significance of this particular dweepa is the presence of Laksha tree. What is this? Again, what is the speciality? Which is shining like gold and is as tall as Jambu tree. Now, how tall is Jambu tree? It has been described in the previous chapter as it is same as width, like we have seen in the previous this one. If you see this image, so the width is 1 lakh yojanas. The height of Jambu tree is also 1 lakh yojanas. That's what is being told here. So 1 lakh yojana, and the width is basically, yeah, at 1.1 kilo, means that 1.1 lakh tall. And the ruler is Idmajiva, and his sons, he passes it on to his sons, which is Shiva. And you will see in everywhere there are 7 sons now: Shiva, Yavasa, Subhadra, Shanta, Kshema, Amrita, and Abhaya. These 7 sons, like I described earlier, are going to be given the 7 islands. Like here you see, not islands, the 7 varshas of each of the dweepa. So even Plaksha is also divided into 7 varshas, and that is given to the respective 7 sons. And then what are the mountains which are present? Is Manikuta, Vajrakuta, Indrasena, Jyotishman, Suparna, Hiranyashtiva, and Meghamala. Everything I have picked up basically from the verses only. And the rivers are also named here. What are the rivers? Aruna, Drimna, Angirasi, Savitri, Suptabhata, Ritambhara, and Satyambhara. And the 4 castes of the people that is being described in the inhabitants of this particular dweepa, they are called Hamsas, Patangas, Udvayanas, and Satyangas. And whom did they worship? They worship the sun god. And how? With Vedic rituals. So they are saying that let us take shelter of the sun god, who is a reflection of the Lord Vishnu, the all-expanding supreme personality of Godhead, the oldest of all persons. Vishnu is the only worshipable Lord. He is the Vedas, he is religion, and he is the origin of all auspicious and inauspicious results. So they are worshipped. This is how they are worshipping. And so when we are approaching demigods also for any reason, whoever is approaching must approach in this way. Then again we see Shalmali Dweepa. So earlier Plaksha was about 2 lakh yojanas, and this one is 4 lakh yojana, which is basically double of the previous. So same thing with the liquor ocean, which is around, it is 4 lakh yojanas. Shalmali tree is the significant part which is present here. But what is the significance of Shalmali tree? It is the residence of Garuda. And in that tree, what happens? He sits and offers Lord Vishnu all his Vedic prayers. So that is the speciality of the Shalmali tree, that it is the residence of Garuda. And who is the ruler of this particular dweepa is Yajnabahu, and he further passes it on, and his sons inherited the dweepa and the different varshas, which is Surochana, Saumanasya, Ramanaka, Devavarsha, Paribhadra, Apyayana, and Avigyata. And the different mountains which are present here are Swarasa, Shatashringa, Vamadeva, Kunda, Mukunda, Pushpavarsha, and Sahasra Shruti. Then the different rivers which are available are Anumati, Sinivali, Saraswati, Kuhu, Rajani, Nanda, and Raka, and they had added one more sentence in that particular verse saying that they exist even now. So all this is not an imagination. They are existing beyond our viewing capacity. What we can see is only very little. We have no power, our senses have no power of seeing nor discrimination. So therefore, what we can't see does not mean that does not exist. That's what is being reiterated. And the four varnas which exist here are Shrutidharas, Viryadharas, Vasundharas, and Ishandharas. And by following Varnashrama Dharma, they are worshipping Soma, the moon god. So here the speciality is that they exactly follow the Varnashrama Dharma principles as per the Vedic injunctions. And the whom they worship is Soma god, because ultimately they want to enjoy and drink the Somarasa and want to be enjoying that way. So by his own race, what is speciality of the moon god is the moon god divides the month into 2 fortnights known as Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. And why? Because for the distribution of food grains to pitas and demigods. The demigod of the moon is he who divides time, and he is the king of all the residents of the universe. Why divides time? Why? Because we know that every day the tithis, everything is division, and it is all based on the lunar calendar. So the moon is the one based on which we are dividing time and date. So he is the king of all the residents of the universe. So we therefore pray that he may remain our king and guide, and we offer him our respectful obeisances. So here they are being specific, they're worshipping moon all in all. And Kushadvipa again is 8 lakh yojanas, and that is described until the text 17. The description covers the Kushadvipa. So here what they are talking about, the ocean which is covered is liquid ghee, which is also again 8 lakh yojanas. And then the significance is presence of kusha grass, which was created by the demigods by the will of the Supreme Lord. And it appears like a second form of fire, but with very mild and pleasing flames. Its young shoots illuminate all directions. And who is the ruler here? Hiranya Reta. And whom did he pass it on to? Is Vasu, Vasudhana, Ridharuchi, Stutyavrata, Nabhigupta, Vivikta, and Vamdeva. And the mountains which are present here are Chakra, Chatushringa, Kapila, Chitrakuta, Devanika, Udvaroma, and Dravina. The rivers which are available are Ramakulya, Madhukulya, Mitravinda, Shrutavinda, Devagarbha, Ghritachuta, and Mantramala. The 4 castes which the inhabitants are divided into are Kushalas, Kovidas, Abhiguptas, and Kulakas. And whom do they worship? They worship the fire god. How do they worship? They are saying you are a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, and you carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore, we request you to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead the yagnik ingredients. We are offering the demigods, for the Lord is the real enjoyer. So this is all what they are offering, and this is where we are ending our session today. It's just very informative, technical, but within this also there are a lot of lessons that we can learn. Yeah. Are there any doubts that I can answer?
Actually, Mataji, very nice session, Mataji. The thing is, actually, these kind of sessions, I recommend should have been there in our school syllabuses.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they are not there. But yeah, being secular.
The thing is that, like, even Srimad Bhagavad Gita is not there, which is like a life manual for us. We come with that life manual, and that life manual is not available to us.
That's
And
right, Mataji.
by good fortune, if we come across it and the right parampara to know, then we are fortunate. And imagine all those people who are not having access to this information
Yeah, yeah.
at all, right?
That's
So
right.
this information is so much important for us to, why it is important is again to keep us grounded at every
Yes.
step. Prabhupada is reiterating, I feel so much that how much hard work he has actually done to translate all this and for what, so that we could know that what is our duty, what we are supposed to do. And he struggled so hard for all of us. He's written all this.
Yes,
But even if we think of Srimad Bhagavatam itself, at every point how it is clarifying, right? So
Yeah,
there's
that's
I find it very overwhelming, Mataji, the
yeah,
way the details are put up and
yeah,
what are we kind of feeling I get. I mean,
yeah.
yeah. So we are so,
Better late than
so,
never is
so
only what we
tiny.
can think.
Yeah, we are so, so, so tiny and still full of egos
Yeah,
and things that we think we are bigger than all of this.
exactly. I, I mean, we coming to that point of realization is the most important. That is the objective of reading all this, you know. Like why are these initially we say no, unless we read the greatness of the Supreme Lord, we can't reach the sweetness of the Supreme Lord. If we don't understand the greatness, and we will understand the greatness only when we see that there is so much beyond us and in such magnitude that
Yeah.
we are not even a tiny speck. We can't even measure our existence.
Yeah.
And what do we think about ourselves? It's only where it only humbles us to know that we are nothing. There is so much which is existing, and look at the magnitude, like so many what is that 1 lakh yojanas
Mm.
means 13 lakh kilometers is the width of this one. And even Earth is only a few thousand kilometers. I think about 12,000, 13,000 kilometers is the width of Earth. And that is also covered in the future chapters. Actually, I would recommend very much that you go through the series of Vedic Cosmology by Parmeshwar Das Prabhu. I will also send the link in our group. It is so wonderful if you go through. I was so tempted to see all other videos, all the future videos also, though I had to cover only 1 to 14
Yeah, yeah.
chapter, but he's wonderfully explained. Finally, he comes to the point where what is Earth and where does it exist?
Okay, okay.
He's coming to this point where it is like, here we are there now. Bharatavarsha is written, no?
Yeah,
In this also there are further 9 divisions. 9. So this is about 9,000 yojanas is the size of this. Means each division is 1,000 yojana is the width of each one, and then the 9th one which is there now, that one is where Earth planet
the
is.
Himalayas that is mentioned here is what Himalayas we see. It's not the same, right? Or is it the same Himalayas?
That is what I have not reached that point.
Okay.
But he's described everything, and he is also what is that? He's also kind of done some myth busting and everything. There are 2 short videos also, one of 30 minutes and one of 45 minutes. I'll share it in the group, Mataji.
All right. Mataji.
Definitely that one has to be seen. But if we want more details, then the detailed series, I think 5-6 series he's covered.
Sure.
In which he's mentioned that ultimately where we come. Because initially he will not answer that. He'll keep saying that you wait till that particular chapter and that particular day, this particular time, and I will tell you. He's telling like that. So imagine how the kind of grasp he is attained in this particular this one. So yeah, so we are existing, and according to all this also it exists. But he says that what we are seeing here, why we are not able to see, is because all the elements, the material elements, are created with earth, water, fire, air, ether. Right? So even like when we are talking about water, water is existing in solid form, liquid form, and even in gaseous form. When it comes to gaseous form, we are not able to see water, but solid and liquid, we are able to see.
Yeah.
But that does not mean water vapor does not exist.
Yeah.
So he gives that example to tell us that there are things that we cannot see because that elements is not is sometimes not in the realm of our view. And where that's why there's instead of 1 lakh, so here every Varsha, this Himalaya Varsha, even that is also he's talking about they have given the sizes also, Mataji. But I have not covered that here. But they have given the sizes, and it is like in lot of lakhs of yojanas and everything. So this Himalaya is different from our Himalaya, but in Bharata or in the Bharatavarsha, Bharatakhanda, which is actually the world. It's not our India.
Yeah, yeah. So
Which
it's
is
like
the
a
world.
glimpse of all of this
Yeah.
is present on Earth.
Yes, yes, it is present. So I will send that link, and that will help us clarify those doubts. So I think I have ended my part.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much for giving this overview. Thank you.
Mataji.
దండవత్ ప్రణామం మాతాజీ. చాలా
దండవత్.
బాగా చెప్పారు. చాలా బాగా అర్థమైంది. చదివినప్పుడు మనకు అర్థం కాలేదు, కానీ మీరు చాలా టేబుల్స్ తో ఆ పిక్చర్స్ తో చాలా బాగా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేశారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ
అది
మాతాజీ.
నాకు అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి నేను అవి యూజ్ చేస్తాను మాతాజీ. సో ఐ థాట్ అందరికి కూడా యూస్ఫుల్ ఉంటుందని నేను వాటిని ఇక్కడ తీసుకొచ్చాను. ఆఫ్ కోర్స్
చాలా చాలా ఈజీగా అర్థమైంది. బాగుంది. థ్యాంక్ యూ మాతాజీ.
హరే కృష్ణ. వాంఛాకల్పతరుభ్యశ్చ
హరే కృష్ణ.
కృపా సింధుభ్య ఏవ చ పతితానాం పావనేభ్యో వైష్ణవేభ్యో నమో నమః. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्री प्रपात की जय, श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. हरे कृष्णा. दंडवत प्रणाम.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Mataji, Deepa
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
thank you so much for the wonderful
Thank you.
session, Mataji.
Thank you for joining. Hare
థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Krishna.
థ్యాంక్ యూ మాతాజీ.
Hare Krishna.